How do you know if your lower back pain is serious, and what can you do in the meantime? Because there's normally a lag time between obviously getting your pain, then getting to see someone, and then being able to have them do something about it. So what we're going to try and do is fill in that gap and start getting you doing something, or at least having an idea of what to do in the meantime that you can start doing straight away. If you are struggling with lower back pain, you do need some help, click the link below and go through to my How to Overcome Lower Back Pain online or face-to-face consultations and coaching. There you'll answer questionnaires, we'll get together, we'll start putting a program together, and then you can start overcoming your lower back pain as well. First of all, how do you know if your lower back pain is serious? Now, this is the common advice, and I'm not here to replace a doctor or your doctor. I would still recommend booking to see them as soon as possible, but as a general rule, from my interactions within the industry, if the pain, or if lower back pain is getting worse over the next 4 weeks to a month, if the pain doesn't subside in 1 to 2 weeks, those are the general sort of common advice that you may hear within the industry. So if it's not starting to get better after a couple of weeks, then you might need to think about doing the next thing, which is booking to see your doctor. Now, the important bit here is, can you get an MRI scan? If you can get an MRI scan, that's going to be all the better, because it's going to help not only the doctor but you, and if you see an outside therapist, someone like myself, it will help us understand better what's going on with the lower back pain. There are things that I can do within the online consultation through the questionnaires that you complete, and the assessment that I get people to do, that can start to understand where the pain is coming from, which will then inform us on what we can start to do after that. But we can't do anything before that, and the MRI scan can be a very good help for that, for the very simple reason we can actually see what the tissues are doing, or we can see in part what the tissues are doing, which can help inform us of the program that may need to be put forward and done. But that can't just happen off the back of an MRI scan. There needs to be some consultation go on and some assessment go on. That builds the picture along with the MRI scan, so we can then start building a program that can start the rehabilitation process. And again, if you see your doctor, if the pain is interfering with sleep, stopping you from working, is in general sort of a more intolerable type of pain, then you'll probably receive some sort of painkillers. Now again, from the feedback that I get, that is not something that people want to be doing long term. Again, I would always recommend it sort of acutely if there is no other options at the time and the pain is that intolerable. I have no problem with people using painkillers. The problem comes is when they're taking them for weeks and months and potentially years on end, just for the sake of keeping the pain down, because that's not good for anyone really, and it's only really masking the problem and not actually getting rid of it. Whereas what certainly my online consultation and face-to-face consultation is there to do is try to get down to the cause of it, remove that cause, and then start to go forward with the rehabilitation process. The second question, what can you do in the meantime? So if you are waiting to see your doctor, if you are waiting to see me for an online consultation, whatever it may be, what can you start to do in the meantime to help subside the pain? Well, it's getting a balance between these two, because rest has its place, but also keeping active has its place. If you do too much of either of them, you could aggravate the problem. So if you just go for bed rest, you just lie down and don't move, that can make the problem worse, because that can decondition the body, and in some respects allow the injury or the problem to enhance and get worse. If you keep active and don't balance that off with the right amount of rest, again, that can create more wear and tear in an already problematic area within the body. So first of all, getting the balance between a rest and activity. So that's number one. The next one is modifying movement. So this is just about a quality of movement. So you've got to start thinking about movements that are causing and triggering the problem, and movements that are helping it and being a kind of therapy for it. Because what you're then essentially looking for are the movements that are causing the pain, you start to do less of, and the movements that you do that are like a therapy for it and remedy the pain, you start doing more of them. So what you then start doing is you're then able to keep active a little bit more and rest a little bit less. So this is very sort of basic advice, but again, this is just a 10-15 minute tutorial. That's really all that can be put forward. There are other exercises, stretches, foam rolling, massage, other therapies that could be done, but again, without further investigation with regards to questionnaires and assessing and things like that, it's very hard to start putting that together. Plus, understanding the specifics of the individual lower back pain again makes it more difficult to put more specific advice together. But certainly as a place to start, which is again where I start with everyone, and it is just one piece of the puzzle, it's very much looking at what are the movements that are triggering the pain, because if you keep doing them and you keep triggering the pain, you make the body more sensitive to the pain, and it will elicit and enhance the pain that much more. If you start identifying movement, postures, positions and loads that reduce the pain, what you can then start doing is desensitizing the pain, and it will help create a more pain-free environment, or at least a dampened down pain environment, if that makes sense. Because a lot of people don't realize the progress that can be made can start with just dampening the pain. It doesn't mean going from being in excruciating pain to all of a sudden being in no pain. There is a dampening process that comes with that, and winding down the pain and reducing it, and then that can help then create the pain-free environment through movements, postures, positions and loads. Obviously there are other things that can be done with it with regards to other therapies, and that's sort of well known, and that's something that again I would advise. It is just being able to start somewhere and be able to manage your pain that much more effectively, but you have to start at step one. A lot of people want to know, where do I start? This is where you start, and then it grows out from there. This isn't where it necessarily finishes, but it's certainly where it starts, and then it grows out from there. But again, that depends on how your body takes to the adaptation of movement, because that will then elicit when you start, what you move on to next, so on and so forth. So I can't tell you the full plan of rehabilitation straight away. There is a process to it, and we have to know at each milestone what we need to do next and where we need to take it. So as a summary, because I have waffled on a little bit there, with regards to how do you know if it's serious? Is it getting worse over sort of 1 to 2 weeks? And is it subsiding, or is it not subsiding within that month? If that's happening, again, you need to start thinking about getting to see a doctor, getting to see someone like me, again, for a second opinion on what could be happening with your lower back pain. Then what you could do in the meantime, number one, get a balance between rest and activity, because rest will be helpful, but also keeping active will be helpful. And then the final one is modifying movement, but understanding what are the postures, positions, movements and loads that are triggering the pain, and what are the postures, positions, movements and load that are reducing the pain. If you can get an understanding of those two, start doing less of the movements, of the postures, positions, movements and loads that trigger, and start doing more of the postures, positions, movements and loads that reduce. So think about it in that way. That will be your starting point, and then you can start to grow from there. So many thanks for watching. Hopefully this has been helpful. I'll speak to you in the next tutorial. If you've liked this tutorial, hit the like button below. If you want to see more of this, hit the subscribe button below. And if you've got a comment or a question, please leave that in the comment section below, and I will do my best to answer it as soon as possible.